right. You guys had awesome questions. That was awesome. Okay, so up next, we have Glenna Cook, who comes from Valonia this morning, all the way to present to us here in Little Rock. She's been here with her husband a few of the weeks, which is awesome to see, making that drive to get involved and get plugged into our entrepreneurial community. And so I'm really excited to see her give her presentation because I've actually already used her app that she's built with my little sister, who's learning some things from the app already. So without further ado, Glenna Cook. Yes, ma'am. And then you can press down.
Thank you so much for allowing me to present Noteimals to you today. Noteimals is a music method, particularly allowing children as young as 3 to actually learn to play the piano, and I'm very serious with you. We all know that the children of tomorrow are the most important asset this country has. What we do with their little minds is more important than you'll ever realize. They're like wet little sponges, believe me, and they want more to drink. The thing of it is our responsibility to do everything we can to enrich their minds. And even though you may not believe it, it is proven that music is a vital importance in enriching their minds. And the younger you can get to them, the better off it is. So we really need to work on getting music into as many children's hands as humanly possible. You look at a piece of music. Now, come on. I took lessons for 9 years, and the last teacher finally got me straightened out, but I had trouble note reading all my life. What am I doing teaching? I started as a favor to a friend, and now I teach up to 50 children a week because this is working. Now, when you look at these notes, they don't look like any more than spots on a piece of paper. And to most kids, that's true. And to 75% of what I was teaching in the beginning, they didn't work. I tried everything I could think of, everything that I'd been taught, and we still weren't getting anywhere. I was sitting there one day looking at this, and I thought, that's not a D, it's a dog digging out from under the fence. Well, by golly, it would take an elephant to hold that treble clef up off its friends. And look at this funny F. It's supposed to anchor the word face, but it looks like a funny-faced frog to me. I bet it's keeping that elephant happy. Before long, I had a story for every one of the notes on the grand staff, organized into a family. The notes in the middle of the staff are the mothers. The fathers are down here, and the children are up here causing all kinds of trouble. The thing of it is, by telling these stories, we were getting somewhere. To help the children more at home, I would take and draw ears, horns, or eyes, or in the case of the fish, a tail. The kids were doing great. I was succeeding for once. I wasn't losing every little child that came into my life. But then I got a young man, and I was known for helping children with disabilities. He had several severe problems. And the doctor said, you've got to get him into piano, but everybody said, no, he can't learn. Well, for a while I didn't think so either until I did this. This child, go ahead and laugh at it. It's funny. I laugh at him now, too. This child ate it up. He could understand what I was doing. He would go home, and he would play, and he would play, and he would play. The neat part about it is I went to his final review. I only had him about 6 months after we started doing this because the father was transferred. And the teachers and the doctors wanted me there. And they wanted me there because they wanted to tell me how much it had helped him. About the same time as all this was going on, Stas came into our lives. He's an international exchange student at that time who was on a very special program from the former Soviet Union countries where they would come in for 6 months. They would go to school, live in a family, and have a mentor. John Chamberlain was Stas's mentor, and believe me, it was a good match because Stas wanted to know more about computers. He came back, went to UALR, graduated as a Donahue Scholar with high honors, started up writing the programs for several startup businesses, and is now vice president in charge of technology for Visually, a startup company in California. But for me, he was an answer to prayer. My niece did the original drawings, but Stas was the one that helped me figure out how to get that information on paper, how to put the music on the stabs. And when it come to doing the timing book, he simply sat down and wrote me a program. Every note, according to its timing, is a member of the family. A whole note is a 4-year-old. He had that program so I could sit at the computer and type that timing in. It was absolutely unreal. This is a list of the teaching materials we have now. But the funny part about this is that you have to get those books, those flashcards, into the hands of a parent or a teacher. Now this is different, and a lot of people don't like different. So when I got my first iPad, I went to Stas and I said, Stas, I want an app. He says, I don't know how to build an app. I said, you can program. He says, I've never done apps. He says, besides, there's supposed to be a lot of work. Okay. Shelved that for a while. But in December 2012, he gives me a call and he says, guess what I'm doing? I said, celebrating Christmas. He says, He says, my wife Agla gave me an Apple computer. I'm making an app. A year later, the first app went to Apple, and this is the pictures of the first app. You could push this and play the keyboard, or if you push this, 4 little songs were available. You push one of the songs and you come up with this. Now you could go up here at the top and play that note. Play that tune, and it plays it in perfect timing. And then you can come down here, you push the blue note, push it correctly, it moves to the next note, so that you actually end up playing the piece. But 4 songs aren't very much. So he taught me to program songs. And we went back to work on the new app. And there's several iPads in the group here that have this already. And they can pass theirs around. And if you push the little, let me grab mine here. Yeah. Now you're going to come up with this when you first see it. If you push it, you can play that keyboard just like you can play a piano. And you can use both hands. So it is possible to teach on this, and I have done it. I've used our books, and I've taught on it. So it's just as possible to teach on it as not. Come on, little guy. You can play chords, or you can do what the kids love. If you go in to play a tune, they're grouped. You get the free app, you get the first 4 songs, but then if you buy the popular ones, they are leveled by difficulty and timing. The harder the timing, the further down, and then there's children's hymns. I'm going to pick one that's real simple here, because this is what makes it fun. Now, Stas found the app designer in the Philippines. I think he did a great job. But if you're like most little kids and you go in, you're going to goof up and you're not going to get it right. And you're going to get this little guy. But he'll always encourage you to try again. There are four, there are 4 levels, and if you get it perfect, you're going to get him. Now, I went to teach a lesson yesterday, and the little 5-year-old says, Miss Glenna, I can get 3 stars. I can get 3 stars. He was so excited he could hardly wait to show me that he could play those pieces perfect. To close this, come on, whoops. I need to do something here. Oops. I thought you might enjoy listening to Poppy. Poppy is 4 years old. Now, how do I get this to play? Mike? Poppy is 4 years old. She started when she was 3. And this is her piano recital last March. And she's going to play for you, Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Let's see.
It's not going to cooperate with us.
Is this online anywhere?
Hmm?
Is this online anywhere?
No.
Okay.
No, it isn't. I'm sorry. It's not going to cooperate with us.
It's further
But
back.
it is amazing to listen to these little bitty kids. And believe it or not, I have had more than one toddler come up when the rest of the children were playing and want to find cat. And I'm not going to turn them down. If they want to find cat, we're going to find cat. Good eye-hand coordination. You think about this for a minute. If you're right-handed, how much do you use the fingers on your left hand? If you're left-handed, how much do you use these? But if you play the piano, they have to coordinate. They have to do things different in this hand than they're doing in this hand, and you get it all together. Think of the brain exercise that is. Speaking of lifting weights, it does it. But none of it is possible if you cannot read the notes. I did bring the books. If any of you want to look at them, you're more than welcome to leaf through them. If there's any way I can help any of you, kids are important. Let's help them, please.
Does anyone have a tissue? Wow, that was amazing. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have some questions. I mean, this is absolutely mind-blowing. So if anybody has anything to get started with, yeah.
I just want to know, is it available on Android as well? And
No,
Kindle?
not at this point, and I'm sorry for that. We had a choice to make. Let me tell you where it's going from here. Let me get the thing up here again, please. When the next level of it, and this is why we're working with one system at a time. We get the one system done, and then we'll go with the other. The next system will have, instead of any notes up here or any grand staff, it will have the flashcards. On one side will be the animal. On the other side will be its story and a little sketching, like dog digging out from under the fence. So even a child that cannot read yet will be able to understand what we're talking about. If they play the right note, the card will flip to the notes that are in the books. which are just drawing or regular notes with the animal character on it. Then, if they still do it right, then it goes to the standard note. It'll do these first 9 notes, the mother notes first. Then you can choose to do the children notes. At that time, the keyboard will slide. And then you can choose to do the father notes, so that at the end, any child who's gone through this will be able to read all of the notes on the grand staff. The last part of it will be timing, and we're thinking that that's still in the working. I think we'll use a drum beat so that the children they can set the speed if they want. But of course, at that time, we'll be able to, if the note goes, say, up here to the A above middle C, the keyboard will slide to accommodate whatever it is. So we'll be able to put a lot more variety on it at that point. And the thing of it is, to do the programming for both the Android and the Apple is very, very difficult to do at one time, because the programming systems are completely different, which doesn't help a whole lot. I'd love to have it out on both, because I want to get this into schools. There are so many children out there that will never have another chance to do this. And we don't know. We might have the next Michael Jackson out there, as far as we know, if we can just dig him up.
While we're asking these questions and listening to Glenna, go ahead and go into iTunes Store and download this so you can show your friends and family, because it's free. It's a free version. Correct?
Yeah, the free version has the first 4 songs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. Yes, David.
So I was just curious. Absolutely love this. I think it's amazing. But it's kind of meant really for like 3 to 5-year-olds. Is that kind of, or what age?
I thought it was, David. I'll be really honest. But I'll tell you the miracle of this. And I never even was going to try it with a teenager, because I thought they'd say, But they asked me. And I have straightened out more children who have had note reading problems with it than anything in the world. And right before Christmas, I had a 12-year-old who started with it. She took the app home, and she, in the beta form, and she listened and listened and listened, because you can slide this, and you can start it from any point, and it'll play. And she would go in and listen to the timing. And she is already playing the easy version of Frozen, and This Is May. So the thing of it is not, I thought it was just for little kids. That's where I designed it, is so that we could get children under 8 into music. But no, well, I've taught kids as high as 15 with it.
So my second question was, is there a plan for transitioning them onto?
Oh, yes.
So you kind of talked a little bit about that with the flashcards, but I was curious what your long-term plans are. How do you get them from reading animal notes to playing sheet music that they've never seen before?
And we'll probably include this. This definitely will be included on the app when we get to the timing part. But because at that point, all pieces will be both in the animal notes and the standard notes. But this is moving on. And every song in here is written first in the animal notes and then in the standard notes.
So on the back of the page.
On the back of the page. So they can always go back and refer to it, but they can play it. And I have not, my youngest children that convert over, say they're 6 and they convert over, they still rely heavily on the word clues. But the word clues will get them going every time. You say, what's that note doing? Think about it a minute. Oh, that's giraffe. And off they go. But it's real fun it's real fun to hear a 7-year-old play Star Wars. And they'll do it. But yes, you have to securely get them over. But the written material does get it there, and as the app advances, we'll get them there.
Hi, I'm Keenan with the Arkansas Fellowship. For, you talk about being a teacher and having a teacher, maybe even a classroom setting, using this app. But for kids taking it home, using it, what kind of feedback or statistics are you giving to parents or educators that want to see progress through this thing? Because, I mean, obviously you can see, how they do on that, but what kind of feedback or is that not necessarily as important? Is that not the sole purpose of the app?
I don't have feedback from the schools yet because we really have never gotten it into the schools. That's where I want it. I do have a couple of friends of mine that have taken it in to their computer classes that have iPads, and they love it. It's doing quite well. Of course, at the level it is right now, it's just getting kids to recognize where the note is on the grand staff and playing it, the eye-hand coordination. I think when we move it on into the note reading part and the timing part, I'm hoping we really have a true teaching app out of this. It's still going to take some parental guidance because it is a teaching app, not just a game. And kids like to play games. But it's amazing. It goes over better than I had hoped.
Thank you.
I have a question for the audience. Does anybody have any media connections or press connections with maybe like nationwide blogs or anything like that we could maybe get this story out there? Because I think this is a very shareable story. It's really touching, and I know that if this gets in the hands of a bunch of kids, it's going to really help them. So if anybody can come up with any ideas, I want to help you reach out to them. And then if there's anyone locally, I know David, you're trying to tap into the kind of the schools and stuff. Are there any resources that you would recommend?
I mean, I'm just kind of like thinking about what it is that you're selling. So in one way, you're selling an app, and you can kind of like add on to the songs is the just question that, right? But it's in another sense, you could set a whole, like all the books you have, a whole set of teaching materials. So is that a separate thing you're selling?
Well,
how do you think of your product?
Actually, the books will continue. We do have a website, and we do ship these all over the world. The number is not large. What I'm really after now is getting the app into as many children's hands as we can. And that also, we do need to get it on the Android. I realize that. Yeah, because of Kindle and because of the other. I realize that. But, I'm just amazed where you've even got it, period. But right now, my concern is the app. The books will go along on their own. Sure, I'd like to get them into more hands than because I celebrate every time there's an order goes out because I know a child's going to get help. But I don't think the books will ever help as much as the app will, because we can get the app out more. Yes, hon.
Mike Steely with the Venture Center. Afterwards, let's talk, because I'd like to talk to you about Kickstarter or some of the crowd funding platforms. There's
Okay.
a real opportunity to get a really viral story like this out, and the funding is really good, but the actual part of this that becomes the app downloads and the acceptance in the market becomes just extremely viral very quickly. So I think this would be a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, to Mike's point, actually, it made me think if we want to help you, raise some money to do an Android version, that would be an option, because you can specifically say we want to get this to a Android application, and then all of us can have the opportunity to back it for you. So that could be something cool. Yeah.
Shannon Chamberlain. Have you mentioned yet that Noteimals is on Facebook? If people want to see, for instance, the little
I
kids playing
post-
piano.
I do post on Facebook. I try to get it out every day, but not always. I do put several of the children, which is real fun because you see them kind of advance through this, and my parents are really good about this. They allow me to, but we've got, like, there's one video on there of she was not 3 yet, and she had wanted to play because her parents were playing, and she got tired of playing out of the beginning book, and she says, I want to play Jingle Bells, and she wasn't 3 yet. That little toot sat down and she read it, and she played Jingle Bells. She read the music, and she played Jingle Bells, and she'd heard it enough that her timing was pretty good. She was one that every morning she'd get up and she'd tell her daddy, I need you up, Daddy. I want to practice my piano. And every morning she would sit down with the iPad and practice her piano so that she'd be ready for her next lesson. She was 2.5. So it's an amazing thing, but it does take a lot. You had a question here.
Yeah, and I know you are geared more towards getting the app out than the book. However, I think it may be a great idea to include, just a little perforated card that has, available on the Apple Market with the book. And then I believe it'll be quicker for you to get the books in places like Museum of Discovery. I mean, don't take out the bookstores that are, children's markets, but not bookstores. They still sell books like that. So I think the Museum of Discovery, the bookstores here, like Pyramid Art Gallery, it has a large bookstore and a children's section. I think people would buy the book easier and quicker than the app in mass quantities, and you could just include with the book a free download for the app with the book. So then it feels like a 2-for-1. It feels like you're getting a book and an app, and it feels all inclusive. Plus you can push market the app.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
I was thinking that this isn't just an app. I mean, it sort of does replace the instrument as well, right? I know it's not the same fidelity as sound, but it does, which is a big benefit. Have you thought about talking to some of the music teachers out there? I'm sure there are a lot. I think this will be your best channel of distribution because they have access to a lot of parents. Finding an app in the app store is not trivial, any app store. But music teachers that are trying to solve a problem, they could potentially help you get it in the hands of parents because they'll be interested in kids practicing as much as they can, and this is a way for them to reach to a lot of parents and potentially help their business because ultimately if you get a 3-4-year-olds playing, not having to spend a lot of money on an instrument, that's going to be beneficial.
Mark, that has been the most frustrating thing in the world for me. And I'll be really honest with you. Anybody who is a standard teacher, I've gotten 3 or 4 to listen. They don't, oh, that's different. I don't see how you can do it. I can show them that it does it, but they're a hard nut to crack. And I really have to admit this. I wish they weren't. Mary Lofton, who teaches at Dunbar Keyboard, she uses the books there. We have them in several schools, the books themselves. But she uses it, and it took me about a year to convince her. But there's a theory book with this set, and she's the one that told me, you've got to put this down on children's level. I said, I can't write theory. I don't have a PhD in it. She says, you can write it like a kid will understand it. I have the PhD, but they don't understand me. But you see, that's the kind of attitude we have going here. But it's very hard to crack that market. I've tried to get in with the, going to the school yearly state conferences to present, but they won't open the doors. It's different. It's hard to get in.
Awesome. Well, let's give it up for Glenna one more time.
Thank you very much.